But you can bet your bottom dollar, your bottom dollar in your business, that it is. That was too clever. I need to be chill. Hello YouTube, what is up? Welcome back to the Every Closet. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Stephanie, and along with my partner Ethan, we are two full-time clothing resellers on places like Poshmark, eBay, maybe some others one day. So if you like full-time reseller content, if you like any reseller content, if you like our content specifically, please hit subscribe down below, and we will get into the business of today's video, which, as you read in the description, is what to do when your business, when your small business suffers a setback. This could come in a lot of forms. You can bet that that day is coming no matter what. There is no way to get around the fact of it. There are going to be negative things, there are going to be mistakes, there are going to be market changes, there are going to be bad things that happen in your business. They're going to happen way more often than you'd like, actually. When I first tried to film this video, it came right after our hard drive broke, our apparently much too young to break hard drive. And so we didn't have a backup for it. And so we were freaking out. Have we lost months of work? What are we going to do? And then about a week later, my friend messages me on Instagram and is like, I need a social security number to input for my US closet. And that freaked all of us Canadian resellers out with cross-border closets. Are we going to lose our cross-border closet? What's going to happen? And then a few days after that, Poshmark changes its algorithm, and everyone is in the whole reseller community is freaking out. Oh my gosh, my sales are down. What do I do? This isn't working for me. And so thankfully, in all of those three situations, and Ethan, can you pop up the video about how to deal with the social security number one that we made a few weeks ago? But thankfully, in all those situations, it wasn't quite the catastrophe that we all thought it was when we first heard about all those things, right? And that is often the way in business with problems. Sometimes they sort themselves out, sometimes things go well, sometimes things change in the positive direction soon after, and so sometimes you're just scot-free and there's nothing you had to do about it. But there is eventually going to be a time when the hard drive isn't recoverable, when the algorithm is changed permanently, when you, scary as it sounds, get deplatformed on one of your platforms and you lose a stream of your income. And that those things can and will happen to you in the course of your business. Not those specific things, but things just like that, or things just as bad. So what we're going to get into in today's video is 10 general tips for how to deal with business setbacks. These are things that apply to whatever setback you're facing at any time, probably. And then we're going to get into 10 things that come up in everyone's reselling business. They're just problems that I've seen come up time and time again. I'm here to tell you my 2 cents on what you should do in all of those 10 situations. So let's get into it. Tip number 1, and this will be true for most things, not all things, but most things that come up, is do not react in the heat of the moment. By this I mean your brain, your mind runs your business, but your limbic system, your emotions, are not what run your business, okay? What runs your business is way up here in the frontal lobes, where you make decisions. That's where decisions come from, and if you are in the heat of the moment, you are back stuck in your limbic brain. It is clouding your judgment. It's impeding messages getting to your frontal lobes. Check this out. You need to hear this. You cannot think clearly when you are in the heat of the moment. You can't make those well thought out, good business person decisions in the heat of the moment. When you first hear about a new problem that's come up, when you first find out you've made a mistake, when a case is first opened against you, any of that, do not sit and reply right then and there. Don't do it. There is no rush on trying to deal with any of those things, especially not like if your heart is racing, if you're feeling insulted, if you feel scared, anything like that. Give yourself some time to cool off, to think about it, and to reply the next day, the next hour, whenever you feel like, okay, I've thought this through using the good part of my brain, the thinking part, not the emotional, angry, reactive part. Some things probably are time sensitive, but 90% of things you do not need to react right away. So give yourself a minute, give yourself an hour, give yourself 3 weeks if you want to. You don't have to react right away. Tip number 2 is to remember that screwing up is part of success. And by that, I don't actually even mean like naturally everyone will screw up along the way. I mean, in order to succeed, a cause and effect relationship, you need to screw up. Because if you don't screw up, you're never going to learn. So it's like how we all need to learn hands-on what sells in our closet. You can't learn that from other people's videos. You can't learn that from other people's hauls, from their what sold. You learn that from selling it yourself. So trying a brand and it not selling for you is part of that process. You can't properly learn how to source for your closet if you don't screw up a bunch along the way. There is no learning without screwing up. There is no moving forward successfully without acknowledging that you're gonna mess up a bunch. Remember, this is part of the process. And I say that to myself whenever any of these things happen. I say, okay, Stephanie, this is part of the succeeding process. Maybe your hard drive broke, maybe everything's gone, but this is part of it. And guess what? We're never gonna make that mistake again. And that's exactly the point. Tip number 3 for what to do generally when you come up against a setback is get creative. Be creative from what you have. Use what you have and make new ideas from that. So Google is your best friend in this. YouTube tutorials are your best friend in this. We built this whole society that we did so that we could use each other's good ideas and build off of them. You don't have to be a creative genius to get creative. You know, if you're reading a list of ideas of what to do, like say this list, if you're watching this list of ideas of what to do if you have a business setback and something I say triggers an idea in you, that's fantastic. Like, you didn't have to be there sitting, like, being creative doesn't mean like you have to come up with totally new things that you've never thought of. It just means search for different answers. It means this isn't working, I'm gonna try seeing what other people are doing, seeing what else I can come up with, seeing ways around it, and just like not being willing to hear no. Like if someone tells you, no, you can't cross-border ship in Vancouver because there is no cross-border shipper in Vancouver. Call every, and I mean every single courier service in Vancouver and say, do you take packages with prepaid labels? That is how you do it. That's the creative way of doing things. It's not genius or inspired. It's repetitive. It's taking ideas from other people and making them your own. Or not. You can run your business exactly like someone else runs their business, and that's totally fine. Don't plagiarize. But if the idea is how you're going to go about selling things, if the idea is how to take better photos, like whatever it is, you don't have to sit there and come up with all the ideas by yourself. There's a whole community of resellers on Instagram. There's a whole community of resellers on YouTube. And Google is your best friend. If you don't know how to get around a setback, I bet you someone else has figured it out before. Or maybe they have figured out something similar and can give you some ideas from there. So be creative. General tip number 4 is to expect problems before they occur. That means to expect that problems in general are coming, because they always are, and also to expect certain specific problems before they happen to you. So what are things that are going to come up in everyone's reselling business? Expect you're going to buy items with flaws. It's going to happen. Expect you're going to get bad reviews. That's going to happen. Expect you're going to make mistakes and ship someone the wrong thing. Eventually, with enough volume, that is going to happen. And that goes for lots of things, like expect industry changes when they're due. Expect, like, if suddenly TikTok has become the new thing, then that makes sense that on Instagram, you're going to have to maybe shift to Reels because video is king now and photos don't hold their weight anymore online for online social media content. You know, like, I don't mean you have to know what's going to happen before it happens. I just mean pretend like you're in the game of Survivor and you're playing Survivor and the name of the game is to get someone else out before they get you out. And so you want to be thinking about things that could happen, that could get in your way. This is the same if you're doing anything, really. Like, say you're starting a weight loss plan and you just want to sit there and think, okay, when am I going to screw up? Because I am. What am I going to do when I do? What's going to be the reaction? What snacks do I have? You know, whatever like that. And it's the same thing in your business. Like, what changes might be coming? What changes do I need to make? What, like, you want to keep ahead of it. And we'll talk about this in the specific ones later, but in general, try and come up with ideas of what could go wrong and then swerve out of the way before it even hits you. General tip number 5 is that most problems don't actually require any reaction from you. And we'll get into this more specifically when we go into some specifics again later with what kinds of things could go wrong in a reselling business, but this applies to most businesses and most problems. I'd say 7 out of 10 times a problem that comes up does not require any move, any reaction from you at all. And so just try to remember that sometimes no reaction is the best reaction. General tip number 6 is to do what works for you and for your business, not what works for someone else's business, not maybe even what works for everyone else's business. Trial and error is how you're going to figure this out, and you get to know your business after a while. You know, like, I see why people are saying that, but that's not the way I run my business. Like, there are 100 million ways to run a reselling business. There just are. There's different models, different platforms, different items to sell, different sentences to use in your description. You know, like, every single step of the way, there are a million ways to do something. So do what works best for your business, and that could mean ignoring half the advice I'm giving you today, and that's fine. If that's what works for your business, that's what you need to do. And so when you come across a setback, remember, I need to adapt to this, or I need to react to this in a way that's going to work for me, for my business. General tip number 7 is to ask for help. And I'm just going to repeat it again and again so that you get it. Ask for help. Ask other people to help you. Sometimes they'll say no, and then what? Nothing bad happened, right? Sometimes, a lot of the time, people are very generous and knowledgeable, and they can help you, and they're happy to. It makes them feel real good about themselves. So ask for help. General tip number 8 is to adapt a mindset of continuing education. You know how doctors and other, like, certified professionals have to attend X many lectures per year or take X many classes per year to keep their certification? Well, so do you. I don't care what you do. I don't care what your business is. So do you. You all have to keep educating yourself in your field forever. It's happening forever. You don't learn a list of bolos and then suddenly you're great at sourcing. No. That is not how it works. You learn a list of bolos, and then you pick them up, and then half of them didn't sell for you, and then some of them don't have good comps anymore, and then that used to sell for a lot, but it doesn't anymore, and that brand sells for a lot, but not that style. So you need to adapt a continuing education mindset. That means learning new ways of taking photos. That means learning new methods of getting to customers, new methods of sourcing, new ideas for things that you can sell, new platforms, new everything. Your business is going to thrive on continuing education. And so when you have a setback that you're coming up against, think, what is this teaching me that I need to change in my business? Because clearly something that I was doing or thinking or whatever is outdated, and I need to update my thinking, my education. I'm going to go do some research. I'm going to look into this more, and I'm going to learn. It never ever ends. Sorry, not sorry. General tip number 9 is to prepare yourself maximally to handle problems that could come your way. And by self, I don't mean your business self. I mean your everyday self. I mean your mind, your body, yourself should be prepared for problems. And to do that, you improve yourself every single day. You read books, you meditate, you get enough sleep, you go outside every few weeks, you take some freaking rest days, you take care of yourself, and you work on yourself and you improve yourself. And one day you're going to be too formidable and too strong for any problem that could possibly come your way to actually get in your way. If you meditate every day, then problems that come will seem a little less significant in the grand scheme of things. If you got enough sleep, then you're gonna be a lot closer to using your frontal lobes instead of your limbic system when you're reacting to problems. If you are well rested, if you are well read, if you are consuming content from lots of different fields, like not just consuming reseller content if you're a reseller, if you're consuming, content from all these other like drop shipping people and these people and all that, like you just want to make yourself well-rounded, unstoppable, and as strong as you can be. And then whatever problems come up, because again, they're gonna come, they're not gonna impact you because you're this giant mountain that you've made yourself into, this unstoppable, unmovable force, and the problems can't get to you if that's the way you are. General tip number 10 is to take all this with a grain of salt. And by that I mean advice is great and all, and what other people say is great and all, but dollars do not lie. You can hear something as conventional wisdom 100 times, but the actual dollar impact on your business is where you're gonna learn from. So my advice here is, if you're following someone's advice on something, if you're pivoting or whatever you're doing right now and it is not contributing to a higher bottom line, that's not working. You gotta try something else. All that matters in business specifically is the bottom line, is the dollars, is what's happening to those. And so it doesn't matter if what you're doing is unconventional. It doesn't matter if what you're doing is the wrong way to do things. If it's working, if you're making money from it, then it's working. Okay, so that was the 10 pieces of general advice, and we're gonna see how we can apply each of those as we go through 10 examples of things that could come up in your reselling business that are problems that people have all the time or might have in the future. And so I'm gonna tell you how I would react to each and every one of these problems and sort of how I'm using the advice I was giving before to do that. So let's go back to 1 through 10. Number 1 thing that could happen in a reselling business that is a setback for you is you get a low rating. Now, this means different things on different platforms. If this happens on Poshmark versus eBay, on eBay it means a bit more. On Poshmark it doesn't really mean much because no one can see it, which is a little ridiculous. But what do you do if you get a low rating? Well, the first thing you do is follow the very first piece of advice, which is to not react if it's upsetting you. If it upset you in any way, if you're in your head, don't say anything or do anything about it until you've thought about it. And then on that same vein, another piece of advice from above, that some problems don't require any reaction at all. 99% of the time, this is one of them. I'm so sorry. I know it's upsetting sometimes. I know that sometimes people can be mean and for no reason, especially on the internet. Sometimes the low rating isn't fair because they said it took you a long time to ship, but you shipped same day. Sometimes they put item description, but you put a really descriptive description. You put more effort into it than you usually do, and it's not fair, and I totally get that. But really is one of those reseller problems that's not really a problem. You don't actually have to react to it most of the time. And then the third piece of advice we're going to use for this one is to adopt the mindset of continuing education and not getting stuck in your ways. So if by some miracle you get a low rating and they actually give you constructive feedback in that rating, even if it's mean constructive feedback, but if there's anything in there that you can pull out that tells you how to run your business better, you need to use it. So putting your egos aside, putting the rating itself aside, putting all this aside, if they've given you any advice in there, consider that part of your continuing education. people used to give us bad ratings and they would be like, there's cat hair in this. And I was like, I lint rolled it as long as I could. But eventually I had to take that because 3 or 4 people mentioned it. And I was like, okay, that's unacceptable now. They're right. I need to be doing something different. And now we pre-package every item the moment it's photoed. So we lint roll it and we pre-package it. It becomes sealed and then no cat hair can get to it between when we photoed it and lint rolled it last and when it gets shipped. So now we don't get that feedback anymore. And so yeah, most of the time when this happens, I'm so sorry. I know you want to complain. I know it's annoying. I know it's an annoying part of the business, but it requires absolutely zero reaction from you whatsoever. If you got a low rating and someone is telling you you actually really messed up, I would consider reaching out to the buyer, apologizing, trying to make it right, but you don't have to. Because at the end of the day, and especially this is true on Poshmark, they give you a 1-star rating, that means you got paid. And that was the point of this whole exercise. So most of the time you really don't need to react. Problem number 2 that comes up in every single reseller business is what to do if you discover when you got home, you bought something with a flaw on it. Oh no! We're gonna use the concept of preparing yourself for problems because this is a problem that is completely unavoidable. This is going to happen to you at some point. So you need to know how you're going to deal with it before it even happens. So you need to know the return policy of everywhere you get stuff because a lot of Goodwills and Value Villages and places like that have a return policy. And so if you make sure that you didn't take the tag off, if you have a tagging gun and you can put the tag right back on, and it's within the time frame of the return policy, return it. No harm, no foul. Nothing bad happened. And that's where being prepared for the problems that are going to come up is going to come in handy. Because then you'll know things like the return policy. You'll know things like, what do I do if I messed up? Oh, I do this, right? And then the other thing you can use for this one is to be creative. And again, I do not mean to create new ideas. I mean copy other people's ideas. Do you know what other resellers do when they get things with flaws and they can't return them? They tie-dye them because there's a stain and so now it's tie-dyed and trendy. They upscale them, they sew the hole, they have so much information online about how to clean stubborn stains, about how to get things like that out. Google, 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 Google. What else do people do? If it's on the bottom half of a shirt, can it be a crop top? I bet it can. Most things can. If it's on the bottom of jeans, can those jeans be hemmed? Can you hem them? You know, and this is, again, part of your continuing education is learning these things, adapting to these ways of things, and just, yeah, get creative with it. You could literally type out, ask for help on your Instagram stories. What do I do about this with a flaw? And you would get 20 ideas like that because people love helping. And we've all done it. Like every single reseller's done it. So you could DM almost any reseller and be like, well, what do you do when you do this? And they could all each give you their different things that they do and you can pick from those. So there are a million ways to handle this. Don't freak out. Everyone does it and it's gonna be fine. There's lots of ways to deal with it. Thing number 3 that could happen in your reselling business that could be considered a setback is dreaded, a case is opened against you. Oh no. Okay. Right away, I feel like you already are with me. You know we're gonna use the first piece of advice, which is do not react while it is triggering you. If the person was rude, if they said something upsetting, if they said something that you think's not true, if they're lying, if you're like upset about the case in any way, take a few hours. Poshmark's probably not gonna get to it in those few hours, so let yourself calm down. Now is not the time while you're angry to reply to this case and say something like, this buyer's a liar. I would never do that. Like, you know, if it's in the heat of the moment, that's not when you need to react. And another thing that you also know I'm going to say is this is one of the situations. Sometimes you don't have to react. There's a thing on Poshmark. They have pretty simple policies. If this happens, yes, return. If this happens, no return. And so sometimes you just don't reply and Poshmark will rule in your favor. Sometimes when you don't reply, Poshmark will not rule in your favor. And that's where you come to our other piece of advice that we're going to use for this one, which is that screwing up is part of the process. If what happened is you screwed up on the order, if what happened is a mistake of yours in any capacity, just apologize. Think to yourself, returns happen to every business. Repeat that refrain with me. Returns happen in every business. Returns happen in every business. Every business deals with returns. Anyone who sells things, some people don't like it and they give it back and they get their money back. And that happens in every business. So just tell yourself, this is part of it. This is part of being a seller who sells a large volume of things. We've had cases, sometimes they are our fault, and we just say, I'm so sorry, please return it. No harm, no foul. And if that happens to us on our Canadian closet, it really is no harm, no foul. We get the item back and we're good to go. If it happens to us on our US closet, it's still no harm, no foul, because even though most of the time we just tell them to keep it anyway and keep the money, that's a insignificant loss compared to all the sales you're going to make that won't have returns, right? You can't not sell things because of the chance that you're going to get returns. You're going to get them. It's going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen a lot if you're me. Just kidding. It's going to happen a lot if you're anyone. And you're going to get cases. I don't know how many sales it takes for you to get one. The more the better. Good for you. But there is a case coming for you one day. Someone's going to open one. And my best advice for you is to not react in the heat of the moment. Don't react if it's very clear what's happening. Like if it's very clear Poshmark's probably going to side with them, you really don't have to say anything. If it's really clear Poshmark's going to decide with you, you really don't have to say anything. Sometimes you just don't have to say anything. And that's fine. And then if it was a mistake of yours, if it is coming back to you, remember, this is part of the process. And every business deals with returns, and you can too. Specific problem number 4 that comes up in everyone's reselling business, if not now, it's coming, is what do I do when my thrift store starts charging too much money? This is something I hear from people all the time. They say my thrift store prices went up. I can't source there like I used to. They're overcharging for things. What do I do? What can I do about this? I can think of 40 things you can do about this, but I'm not going to share them all with you because that's ridiculous. But let's go over the general gist of it. Number 1, get creative. Get creative in, again, the same way that we were all the times before, meaning use other people's sourcing ideas. There are many, many different ways to source. Thrifting is just one of them. Everyone gets rid of their clothes. There's so much clothes, used clothing on this planet that getting your hands on some should not actually be that impossible. So are you going to start liquidation? Are you going to start going to a different thrift store? Are you going to start traveling further to get your sourcing done? Are you going to switch up like from your cost of goods pricing? And so are you going to just adjust and think, okay, I'm going to buy things for this new $9 per t-shirt mark, but now I need to just continuing education it, know what's worth paying $9 for because I can sell it for $50. And again, ask for help. Ask other resellers in your area what they do. To be fair, lots of resellers don't like sharing exactly how they source, and that is fair, and we do not fault them for that. But ask in general, oh, the thrift store charges too much. What can I do? And people are pretty nice. People give you advice. And then again, this is the one where I think you really need to use do what works for your business, not what works for other people's business. So if people are telling you, oh my God, you have to keep your cost of goods under $5 per item or you're not going to make any profit, that's just freaking not true, okay? We pay $20 for some of our items, and often those are the biggest profits we get. Like, yeah, if your cost of goods is under $4, you can sell things for $30 and you can still make a nice, good profit in there. But if your cost of goods is $20, maybe those items sell for like $100, and that's even more profit than the $4 to $30, right? So do what works for your business, and the numbers don't lie in this scenario either. Like, just do the math and sit there and coldly detach from it. Yes, maybe you had to spend more on this thrift trip. Maybe this cost is going up, but if it's causing your average sales price or anything like it to go up accordingly, then all you have to look at is the net numbers. What are you taking away at the end of the day from your reselling business? If the way you're sourcing needs to change and adapt and be creative, then that's what it needs to do. But if you just need to adjust your brain to the new math of things, to the new math of just, it's coming down to the numbers, and yes, I had to spend $25 on these Hunter rain boots, but they sold for $100, so I'm making a $60 profit. That's amazing, you know? So coolly detach from it. It's annoying when prices raise, but guess what? They're gonna. Every single one of us, our thrift store prices are gonna go up. They're not gonna go down, because that is the direction of the world. And we have to know it's gonna happen and adjust accordingly. Maybe we need to adapt. Maybe we need to find new sourcing strategies, but maybe we just need to pay up for stuff, and maybe that needs to be our new mindset. Or maybe we need to start cutting Value Village off, you know? Maybe we need to think people are just donating these things for free, and Value Village is coming and selling them to me. I need to interrupt that chain of supply. I need to get to the clothes before they get to Value Village. And so I have about 40,000 different ways I have a reaction to this. Maybe even pop up our $5 bag video right here. There are a million different ways to source, and I believe that you've got this, and the prices in your thrift store are gonna go up. Problem number 5 that might come up in your reselling business or in your online business in general: what to do if someone is talking smack about you online. Now, this is where, and I feel like you're already with me, 2 of the pieces of advice really come into play heavily. Number 1 was don't react in the heat of the moment. And number 2 was you don't even really need to react. If someone is saying bad things about you or your business online and it's impacting your sales, if it's slander, if it's actually false, if it's actually not, like, if it's actually really impacting you, there are actual legal ways you can go about that to, you know, people can't actually just say whatever they want about you, even if it's online. Online isn't a free-for-all. But if someone's just insulting you personally or like criticizing something you do, honest, and I can't believe I have to say this, but this now happens a lot in our community, so this could be a problem that we all have to come up with. And I've thought about this a ton. I've like almost stopped creating content, scared that someone would be like, oh, Stephanie said this, but this is what I think, and rah, 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 you know, like using those other 2 pieces of advice. You don't react in the heat of the moment, never. There's no time limit on when you can react, and sometimes you don't have to react, okay? You do not have to react to this. If you pop up in someone's stories and they're spilling tea about you, you can actually just say nothing about the situation. You don't have to react. You don't have to say anything. You just keep doing you. And eventually, they're gonna stop, because that's not like, sometimes that's what they want. They want to get a reaction out of you, and you don't have to rise to that bait. You really don't. And another thing with this is the like second to last tip I gave, which was to prepare yourself, your own self, for this. So make sure you're getting enough sleep, make sure you're meditating, make sure you're doing all these things that are continually improving yourself. And then this is just gonna seem like a little yappy dog that you're like, I don't need to listen to this yappy dog. I am a formidable mountain. I don't need to even react to this at all. This doesn't even need to bother me. This is silly. And that's my general advice on if that happens. Number 6, things that are going to come up in your reselling business and what to do about them is, what do you do if you pay too much for something at a thrift? You paid $20 for some Lululemon leggings, and it turns out those weren't the Lululemon leggings that are selling for $70, and you can only sell them for $30, and that means you're making a $4 profit, and that's not good, and you made a mistake. And then they maybe sit forever, and someone sends you an offer for even less than that. And what do you do in this one? Screwing up is part of the process. Making bad buys, paying too much for stuff, that's part of learning what you should be paying for things. That's part of learning what things are actually worth. That's part of becoming a successful reseller. Every successful reseller has paid too much for something that they then got home and checked comps more thoroughly, or that they just sat around for months and then they had to let go for way less than they thought. And my advice to you here is to, if you realize it right when you get home, return it if you can. But if you realize it like months after listing it, just let it go. And repeat that refrain to yourself. Screwing up is part of succeeding. Screwing up is part of succeeding. Okay? So you're gonna pay too much for something at some point. I've paid too much for a lot of things at a lot of points. And guess what? Cut your losses, you get your money back, or you get as much money back as you can. And then you move on with your new found knowledge. That is very helpful going forward in your reselling business. And it is part of it. Number 8. Problems that could come up in your reselling business, that comes up in everyone's business at some point. What to do when the setback is that no one is buying your stuff. Oh no, right? That is the exact opposite of what we want. So let's go through how we're going to use all these pieces of advice for this one, because we're going to use all of them. First of all, you're not going to react right away. You're not going to react in the heat of the moment. Do you know why? Because sometimes slow sales are just the way reselling goes. Like if no one's buying your stuff for a few days and then they are again, what matters is how you're doing month to month. What matters is how you're doing on the larger scale of reselling. Not that you had a single no sales day, not that you haven't sold anything in 48 hours, like not anything like that. It's concerning, and of course if it becomes a longer problem you do have to deal with it, but right when it first presents itself to you, when it seems like no one's buying your stuff, often the answer is they will again. Maybe it was Super Bowl Sunday, maybe something else happened. Maybe the algorithm updated and we all didn't realize until a few days into it. Anything could be causing low sales. Some stuff that's in your control and a bunch of stuff that isn't. So don't react right away. The main thing you're gonna use is you're gonna adapt the continuing education mindset. So if no one's buying your stuff, you're gonna think, okay, which part of my business is it that's causing people to not buy my stuff? You're gonna go systematically. You're gonna go by their numbers, because the numbers don't lie. You're gonna go, okay, is it my photos? And you're gonna critically look at your photos and think, okay, no, like the lighting's good, everything's good there, I've got the removed background, I've done everything I can in my photos. Is it the items I'm sourcing? 9 times out of 10, it's the items you're sourcing. So you're gonna think, okay, why did I think this was a good thing to pick up? Where can I learn like why it isn't? How am I looking up comps right? Am I looking up comps for my platform that I sell on, or am I looking up Posh comps and selling on eBay? Like that's not going to help you sometimes, and then again, be creative and see what other people do. Like there are millions and millions and millions, probably not millions actually, but there are hundreds of YouTube videos what to do when your sales slow down. There are hundreds of YouTube videos on how to increase your sales. There are hundreds of Instagram posts and hundreds of things that you can go out there and find. So you go and you find what other people are doing when their sales slow down, and you say, is that maybe my problem? Or like, could that solution work for me? And you go from there. So that's the be creative aspect. Thing number 9 that might, just maybe, probably, definitely gonna come up in your reselling business is what to do if your reselling platform, like say Poshmark, changes its algorithm and suddenly the way you've been doing things isn't working anymore. This is the one where you're gonna use anticipating problems before they happen and swerving so that they don't impact you so much. So let's all think here right now, sit here together and decide what can we do about this, because as Poshmark has literally told us, they're going to change the algorithm back again. And that makes total sense to me. I think I said it on my Instagram and I'll say it again. When a bunch of influencers come out saying they're using bots to get around your current algorithm, what choice do you have but to adapt your algorithm? You kind of have to, right? And Poshmark does have to eventually update their algorithm. It's unavoidable, it's coming. So what are all the things you can do? Well, first of all, be creative, as in see what other people are doing about it. Because they just showed us this for a minute and then took it away, so many people came out with content about what to do about this. go find all that content and see what other people were saying about what they were doing to work this out. Was it shorter titles? Was it different descriptions? Was it different types of items they're selling? Was it sharing wasn't as important anymore, or was more important but at specific times of day, or whatever? I don't even know what it all was. Go find that content and consume it and think, okay, so when this happens again, there are things I can do about it, and these are some of the things I can do about it. For one. For two, sometimes you don't have to react. So this time what happened was Poshmark changed their algorithm, and then they took it back and they unchanged it. And so none of us actually had to change anything, did we? We just keep doing it like it is. But next time they change their algorithm, wait a few days. Not because they might take it back, but because there's probably going to be more updates, and there's going to be more information, and there's going to be more stuff coming out about it as time goes on. So just hang back, and in the heat of the moment, don't change all your listing titles, don't take everything down, don't burn the house down, don't quit your Poshmark business, don't do any of that. Just give it a few days, and if it really is that it's making people less sales, that means they're gonna come out with an update for it. Maybe it still won't be the way it was with sharing, but they will have to adjust to make it so someone's making sales. And if someone's making sales, then someone's making content about how they're making sales, and you can learn from them. And that's my plan pretty much for when this happens again. And then another thing that you can do, and I don't mean to sound like everyone else was when this was happening last week, but diversify your income. And I know everyone said it, but don't put your eggs all in one basket. We are entrepreneurs. This should already be a thing you're thinking about. This should already be a thing that you know. We are selling online on platforms. We don't control the platforms. We don't control the internet. We don't control trends. We don't control anything in our business. We just control us and what we do. Yes? Yes. So things are going to change in your business, be it the algorithm, be it whatever it is. Something's going to come along. It's going to completely change your business. And that is okay. That we don't freak out. We adapt a continuing education mindset, right? And we go from there. We switch up the way we're doing things. We get the cross-listing platform that we swore we'd never get, but then something happens and you needed to get it, right? And cross-listing is a huge way to fortify yourself against these changes. Having multiple streams of income. A lot of you are part-time, and part-time is a great way to do Posh, because if there is a slow sales month, you have a paycheck that you can count on. And so if you're an entrepreneur like me, full-time, like not planning on going back to work forever, then proactively diversify your income. If you can get affiliate links like we have with Prime Lister, if you can start a YouTube channel and maybe make money from that one day, please. If you can start a blog or a website or a drop shipping website, if you can start a Etsy store and maybe you start selling digital products on there, you know, if you have more than one stream of income, and those streams of income all depend on someone, you know, this one depends on Shopify, this one depends on YouTube, this one depends on Poshmark, etc., etc. If any one of those platforms goes under, if any one of those businesses falls out, then you are set up to bridge yourself into the next thing while you're adjusting. Because a lot of people, what they noticed during this algorithm change was, hey, this was my only income. This was my main income. I was counting on this income because it was working for me. And that, I don't care if it's your full-time salaried tenured position, for some unknown reason, anything could disappear at any time. Nothing is guaranteed, and that includes the Poshmark algorithm, that includes every job that has ever existed. So no matter who you are, no matter what business you're doing, but especially if you're a reseller, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you expect that at any moment, whatever's making you money could fall out from under you, and you prepare for that eventuality. I'm not saying that it is your own fault if that falls out from under you. I'm not saying you have no right to be upset about it. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that it is your responsibility, sadly, and no one else's. No one can do this for you, to set yourself up ready to respond to that when it happens. because I don't know when it'll happen, but I don't even know if it'll happen, but it's likely going to happen in some way to most of us in our lifetimes. Things aren't going to go as planned. Markets are going to shift. Markets are going to crash. Like, weird stuff's going to happen in this world that we live in. And so we think about it proactively and we get ourselves as prepared as we can be. And in reselling and in money making in general, I believe strongly that the best thing you can do for yourself is have more than one stream of income. And so if one falls off suddenly, you have 6 left. And number 10 thing that can come up in your online or reselling business, and my advice for how to fix it: what do you do if the worst happens? You get deplatformed. First of all, that is terrifying, and you have every right to be very, very mad, and to be very, very scared, and to feel all of the emotions. And I want you to feel them. We are using number 9. We're preparing ourselves for things. We don't bottle up our emotions. We do the meditation. We do the sleeping. We do the processing of our emotions, right? So let yourself be as freaking devastated as you need to be about that, because that's devastating. But it can't stop you. And it will not. So when you're done being devastated, and there will be a time, I don't know how long you need, take your time, it doesn't matter. When you are ready, you gotta get back out the horse. And that could be a bunch of different things when you're deplatformed. In today's world, if you're deplatformed from, say, TikTok, great, there's still Instagram, there's still Twitch, there's still YouTube, there's still all these other ones. And that's true for almost everything you're doing. If you've got deplatformed and you're not allowed back on any of that, you completely have to reshift. This is another one of those things where having multiple streams of income would be pretty freaking useful in this scenario. And being deplatformed doesn't just mean, like, maybe you were kicked off your platform, sure, but maybe deplatformed means suddenly, like, you were a Lululemon seller and suddenly Lululemon is now, I hear they're doing this, trying to resell their clothes in store, and suddenly your Lululemon store tanks because you reselling Lululemon can't compete with Lululemon reselling Lululemon, you know? That could be a form of deplatforming too, where, like, whatever you were doing just falls out from under you. And if that's what happens, again, you need to use all the tips and then many more from other people. One is to ask for help. When this happens to people, and if they have, like, a following, or if people like what they do, you had customers, you had someone who was engaging with your stuff, ask them for help. And people, like, that's what the whole GoFundMe thing was made for, is when something like this terrible happens to you, like, people will often be, I mean, don't, like, expect anything from people, right? You're not owed anything, but asking for help, even if it feels so terrifying and it feels so like, oh, I don't want to have to ask for help, you can ask for help. And people are nice and people are helpful, and you might learn something that you didn't know before that can help you with this. This is definitely not one where you can use the no reaction thing. A lot of problems don't require reaction. This one does. So of course, if you're deplatformed, contact the platform. We were deplatformed from eBay like 7 times. No, okay, twice. But we were deplatformed from eBay. They were like, you're kicked off eBay, no more eBay. And first of all, we hadn't even made a single sale yet. And second of all, we didn't do anything wrong. So we were like, hello? We rammed ourselves into the wall that is eBay customer support again and again and again. And now we're selling on eBay. So the first thing you want to do if you get deplatformed is contact the platform and fight it, because you probably can. I know a lot of people who had that same problem with eBay, especially Canadians. For some reason, they're super weird about Canadians. And they're like, yeah, I called and eBay said, we're allowed to kick you off without telling you why. And so that was kind of the end of it for them. And I understand that because it's frustrating. And a lot of people I know are like, I know that you said that I could keep going, but I don't want to because screw them. And that's a fair attitude. But it doesn't have to be the end. You can fight for it more. You can You can call multiple customer service people multiple times. Sometimes the first person you talk to isn't going to help you because they're not very helpful.Maybe they're new at their job. Maybe they don't know the rules. Maybe they have an outdated set of rules. Maybe they aren't high enough so they can't like override something that you need overridden. Whatever it is, if this happens to you, the very first thing I would do is to find it and contact the platform and ask other people for help. See if this has happened to anyone else. What did they do, you know? The last thing I would say about getting deplatformed is regarding the piece of advice to prepare yourself for eventual problems that might come up. The best way to avoid ever getting deplatformed is to have your own platform, right? So selling from a website that you built, selling from your own website, your own Shopify store, selling from something that you own and control could be something that you want to look into just in case this ever happens. And because you can control it and thus are paying no platform fees and thus are like, there are all sorts of benefits to doing this. And so that's one way you can prepare yourself for this. And then another way, again, like I said, diversify your income. Make sure you have 4, 5, or 6 streams of income so that if one does jump off, you have the other ones and you can pay your bills. So there we have it, 10 general pieces of advice for how to handle business setbacks in your small business, in your online business, in your entrepreneurial business, whatever you have. And then 10 specific examples for problems that I hear come up in reselling businesses and how you might use those pieces of advice to react to each one of those things. So hopefully there was something useful in this video. If you found any piece of advice in this useful, give it a thumbs up. But remember number 10, which was advice is good and all, but the numbers don't lie, and to do what is best for your business. So take all this with a grain of salt, apply it to your business, how you need to, and do what is best for you. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, or if you have any questions or complaints, I don't care. Anything you guys think, I want to know. So let me know, and we'll see you guys in the next video.